Hello, and welcome to Does It Resonate With You, the thought-provoking conversation show where your hosts, Angie of the ZXUH method and John the Tarot Geek, figure out what resonates with them while encouraging you to find what resonates with you. Let's get started. Hey, everybody. It is Angie and John, and we're back again for another week of Does It Resonate With You. I am so excited about this because I think I've gotten a lot of information this week about this topic. We're going to talk about ESP, extrasensory perception. Do you remember there used to be a TV show called ESP back in the day?
It either was ESP or it had ESP in the title.
Yeah, I think
way back though, right? Way back.
Yeah. All right, am I dating myself again? All right then. Anyway. So I think this is a really kind of an interesting topic, especially considering we're both what we both call psychics or intuitives, or and then there's mediumships and everything. And I just really want to hit the ground running with this one because I have this question that I think is an interesting one. Do you think you can be psychic without having ESP? In other words,
I think the two are the same thing, but it's looked at from a different perspective. I think.
Well, I mean, so here's where I'm going with this. The traditional tests for ESP, the ZENER cards, and the ways they test ESP, I fail.
And I fail. Do too. I got a great story
miserably
on that.
I fail.
I have a great story on that too.
Yeah. So, okay, and I think it's good that we tell our stories for this one. But so I just really wonder, is there a place? So if you think about the ZENER cards, just as an example, you could use, playing cards. You could use the ZENER cards. We're going to try a little experiment with this little deck here. But if you shuffle the deck, right, of ZENER cards, person gets an image in their mind, and then the card is dealt. Is that like predicting the future? In other words, it was presented on a website that I tried where first it was like you picked the symbol and then it would show you what the card was. But then they had another method where all the cards were laid out. And then you picked the symbol, that you felt went with the card. So what was interesting was when I did the ones that were laid out, if you looked at the cards that were laid out and the symbols, and then my answers, which directly below, my answers, almost all of them were, here's the card, here's my answer, that's the same. Here's the card, here's my answer, that's the same. So in other words, I didn't get the right symbol for the right card, but I got it for the very next one.
Oh, weird.
Weird, right?
Your psychicness is a few milliseconds ahead.
Or something. But then there's the ones where they, you pick the symbol and then they show it to you. So they kind of say that's like predicting the future. And then I thought, well, maybe because I do believe that everybody is intuitive and everybody can develop their gifts. And I believe that everybody has access to all the clairs. But I also believe that people are heavier in some clairs than in others, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So maybe in order to be really powerful with the ZENER cards, do you need to be clairvoyant?
Yes, I think you're onto something. Here's my theory of why ZENER cards are a pain in the butt and why
they really are.
And why tarot seems to work wonderfully. When I do a ZENER card reading, even if it's okay, so there's one way to do it is me with a computer, right? What am I tapping into? I'm tapping into the energy of the card through technology. I don't know. When I do a tarot reading, I'm tapping into my guides, that other person's guides, to answer a question that means something.
Right.
And I think the two are so completely opposite in the purpose and what's actually connecting to what. I can totally see why a tarot reading, solving a problem or helping someone with a difficult situation, absolutely brings in that emotion and that connection. And I want to help, and my guides are going to help you, and we're all in this together. Whereas I'm going to try and figure out the next card because this is a cool parlor trick, right?
Yeah, right. Right.
I think the meaning behind a reading, a tarot reading, is so filled with joy and well, with meaning. And
With meaning,
trying to
right.
guess the next ZENER card is like, who cares, right?
Yeah, right. Right. Well, and so I have a couple of thoughts on it, but I think it's interesting that you brought up the idea of helping people, because last week, and I was not able to finish it or really get in very far, but I picked up that book by is it Dr. Jose Silva?
Junior.
Yeah, the junior. Jose Silva's Everyday ESP, A New Way of Living, and they call it the Ultramind system. And it has some tenets, and one of them is that the mantras are not me centered. I am psychic. I am. They are, and I apologize. I don't have the way he put it, but it's do unto others as you would have them do unto you. The solution must help make the planet a better place.
Key.
It must be best for all concerned.
Key.
It must help 2 or more people, which I think that 2 or more people includes me, right?
Yeah, that's
me and you, right? Like we're doing a reading.
Yep.
I think that connecting to that energy helps me along with helping you. Or if you look at it like you're paying me to do a reading, that helps me. So
Sure.
no matter how you look at it, that helps 2 or more people. And it must be within the possibility area. So I don't know the statistics on being able to guess, but I think that since the power of intention is so powerful, and I know for me that intuition is connecting to, receiving, and interpreting energy, right? That is what you're doing.
Yep.
How in the world do you connect to a card on the friggin' internet? Right? Like,
right.
There's nothing that, because already it's pixels and code and, all of that. Like, how can you tap into that? I just
Agreed.
don't, I can connect to the energy of a person if I have your permission and we're doing a session. Like if anybody's watched, the week when I connected to your guides, and I could feel them, and I could feel the shape, and I could feel that.
Yep.
Why? Because we were having a conversation and it was cool with you, right?
And I'm a person, right?
And you are exactly, and you are a person, and it was helping you like all the way around the block. So I think you're on top of it. So with all of that said, how many people take these ESP tests, fail miserably, and then get defeated and never try any further to open their intuition or read a tarot deck or pick up an oracle deck, right?
Yep, that's part of my story.
Yeah,
Let me tell my story. So I was really interested in psychology when I was in college, and I really thought that might be my direction to go. And so one of the things that I could hardly wait for was the section where we studied ESP. And so me and my friend who was also in the same class, we got the ZENER cards, and we did the ZENER cards. By the way, the ZENER cards are 5 cards. There's a star, a plus, a square, a circle, and wavy lines. And you're supposed to be able to use them to, like, one person looks at them and the other person tries to, feel or guess what the card, what the other person is holding, has on it. And I was really looking forward to that. I knew that I had some abilities that I couldn't explain. And when we did the ZENER test, I got all of them wrong. 100%.
Right,
all. Not
every single one.
Right.
Yep.
Statistically, you should be able to get 20% right because there's 5 cards, right? And I got them all wrong.
All, yep. I can relate.
To the question you just asked, what does that do to someone's like interest in? And I'm like, I literally left that class feeling completely deflated, and like, I guess I don't have this intuition that I thought I did. and I stopped caring about it. So it, right? So what did it do? That silly little test made me think that I was not intuitive, and it made me want to stop. So
See?
I'm a college kid, but it did the opposite of what it should have done.
Yeah, right. And if you follow along with the Silva and the Ultramind method, and whether it works for everyone or not, I don't know. I haven't read enough about it yet. I believe, based on what I've read so far, that it is a method that works. I know that I've done the mind movie method, that the father created, and that is a powerful tool to use in energy work. But my work is centered around helping people understand that you do have intuition and that you have your own way to connect to intuition. So
Exactly.
just because a rose means a birthday to John Edward doesn't mean it means the same thing for you, because you don't have his filter, right?
Right.
And you don't have his same way of connecting. So I feel bad for the people who think, oh, I can't do this.
Mm-hmm.
And the truth is, if you read the book, this method, and this is not like, we don't have an affiliate or anything for this, but this is about going through life and creating your best life, going
Nice.
through understanding and connecting to the choices and the things that are creating your best life, which is all we all want anyway,
Wow.
right?
That is really good.
Yeah,
That
I
is
think
really
I
good.
think now that you've heard me talk about the book, I know you're going to buy it,
Yes.
and I
Yeah.
think you're going to enjoy it, and I'm going to really appreciate you telling me about the end of it, because I probably will never get to the end.
That's so funny, Angie, because I'm like in the back of my mind going like, yep, I'll just get that tonight. Right.
I mean, and
You know what?
there's some exercises and things in there that I think will be really interesting, that maybe folks who are watching would be interested in, kind of following along with us. I
Yeah.
think there's a lot. There's so many things. Like, I was listening to my guides, having a conversation with, yes, Matthew and Pink, Matthew who is all things, and Pink who is Akashic, right? And the idea that ESP and intuition aren't necessarily the same thing, and that everybody has access to everything, but nobody excels at everything, right?
True.
It's like, if everybody could be a doctor and make 4 million a year, probably everybody would do that. That would not work in the world, right? We
Yep.
need different people at different levels, at different vibrations, that do different things, that are interested in different things. So I don't know. So I wanted to tell you really quick, and then we'll, whatever else we're gonna do. Some time ago, I don't think this might be an okay deck for it. Some time ago, yeah, this will be an okay deck for it. Some time ago, how many times am I going to say that? When I was kind of first starting out, there was this class called Psychic You, and it was taught by this woman, Rebecca Brown, who's amazing. She wrote a deck called Dreaming Girl Highway.
Oh,
And
cool.
I don't know if it's available, but I think you'd enjoy her. I think you'd enjoy her teaching. I think she's out of Wisconsin now, so she still does classes. I don't get to see her like I once did. But she did this class called Psychic You. And what she did was she went to like thrift stores and bought books, picture books,
Okay.
right? Like coffee table books,
Yeah.
picture books, right? And she took the pictures and she cut them out and she mounted them to card, like chipboard, mounted them. She had this huge deck, and they were like this size. And what we would do is she would hand everybody in the room a card, and then we would take the card and we would hold it like the, oh, well, this does not work here because I can see it.
You can see it now.
But you get the idea. Oh, look at that. It's 2 cards, actually. Anyway, you would hold the card to your forehead, and everybody would look at the card, And I think one of the differences was everybody in the room would look at the card and then they would send different aspects of the image to you. And I was really good at that. Like,
Isn't that interesting?
I
Wow.
was really, really good at that. And everybody did really well when we did these exercises, but it was literally about sending and receiving. So
Right.
that's entirely different than a ZENER situation.
Right. And here's what's interesting, that you are helping more than one person in that setting.
Right?
So that little nugget there, I'm
I
starting to
think
think
that's
about
big.
everything, right? That little piece right there has really just caught my attention, helping more than one person. I had the same thing. I took a class with Williams, Lisa Williams, the psychic from the UK, and on one of her classes, she did she said, "I've got 5 images in front of me. I'm going to be thinking about number 1 right now. You all write down what you're getting from me," and we did. And a
It was
vast majority.
I've done that exercise with Lisa Williams,
Isn't that
and
okay?
it had amazing results, didn't
Yes.
it?
Yes, it did.
It had amazing results.
Yep. The vast majority of the people picked up on, if not the whole picture, then 1 or 2 elements of the picture.
And
So,
I think that I remember she was very careful to help people understand if they didn't get it exactly or if they didn't get it the same. Remember that it's coming through your filter.
yep.
Look at what you wrote and translate what you wrote to what you see and see how it resonates also for you, right? Because just because, like I look at this, I don't know if you can see it.
Yeah, I can
look
see it.
at
It's a
this,
Merkaba.
right, and I'm going to say Metatron. So to me, that's going to resonate Metatron because it's the same shape as
Yep.
the, right? But you are going to see Merkaba. So it's a simplistic way of pointing out that there's more than one way to see an image.
Yep.
So,
That's true.
maybe you get the color, maybe you get the shape,
Yeah.
Maybe you wouldn't, maybe you would get 2 triangles if you were reading this card.
Right.
Maybe
Or it
you
might
would
be
get
like
the
a
light rays.
light. I
Like
was going to
there's
say the light rays would stand out.
so
Yep.
much. So I think that to me is a much more telling exercise than
Those freaking
friggin'
ZENER
ZENER
cards.
cards. Now, although I do have a friend who's a mind reader. That guy, man, I don't know what he does or what is it a trick? We know that mind magicians and mind readers and mentalists, they are tricks. We know that. Some of them, anyway.
I think some of them are.
Some of what they do are that they're tricks because they won't let you in on the secrets. Okay, like but this guy, he's like, here are the cards, held out the 5 cards, and he's like, and pick one, and I'll read your mind. And I was like, okay, triangle. Oh, I'm gonna get them. I'm not saying it out loud, of course. I'm gonna get them. Triangle, but I'm gonna go wavy lines, which I think look like bacon. Son of a gun, if that didn't guy say, all right, triangle, but for some reason, I want some bacon. And I was like, you son of a gun. Like he got me. I mean, I tried to fool him, but I couldn't.
Yep.
So but he will tell you how much he has practiced over the years.
I was just going to say, he's at a different level than your average beginner. And
because he's read, like he read, like, John, you think you read books? This guy has read books, but he goes and he gets antique books.
Oh, cool.
So he's got books from the like the 1800s, all talking about mentalism and ESP.
Oh, I love
that
stuff. That's one of my favorite topics.
And telekinesis, like all of those things. He's amazing, and he does an amazing show. If you ever manage to get into Illinois and you get to see Joe Diamond, you need to see something. And now it's really interesting because we talk about the power of intention and how the universe adapts to you.
Yeah.
He had this space in the Dole Mansion. It's called the Dole Mansion. Is a haunted ass mansion that we have in Crystal Lake. Used to belong to Barnum and Bailey.
Yeah, the circus
One
guys.
of the circus. So it's just a weird place, but it's filled with artist studios. So he had the studio in this mansion that was haunted as hell. Used to do haunted tours and everything, but he could only have 13 people in his show because that was all that would fit. And then all of a sudden, they just decided they didn't want him there anymore. And he's like an expert marketer and everything else, but a lot of people would be destroyed by that, right? Like, oh no, what am I going to do now? Well, so now he's in the Woodstock Opera House, which, if you've seen the movie Groundhog's Day, you have seen.
Oh, that's funny.
But it's I don't know how many it holds, 1,000 people, 800 people, like
something like
so
that.
13, or now I can sell out 1,000. Like the universe adapted,
right?
To him.
Here, we need to push you out of the small space because you're headed to a big space.
You're headed to a big space. And I always told him, the minute I laid eyes on him, the minute I met him and talked to him, I said, I'm going to be able to say I knew you when. And he's damn close. But now let's get back to ESP. So there is that element, mind readers and tricksters and things like that. But I think there are real mind. Some of the things I've seen him do, and this really to me is ESP. This to me is extrasensory perception. Like I didn't ask him if it was okay to talk about him, but I know he loves publicity, so I think he'll be fine with it. But in one of the shows, he took 50-cent pieces. Look at me. Yep. 50-cent pieces, put them on his eyes, tape over his eyes. And then I think he wrapped something around it too. So you knew he could not see. Then he had certain people, I've been a person that, did take an object out of their pocket or their purse and put it on the table in the middle. And then he would have, how did he do it? He would hold out his hand and he would have somebody put it in his hand like this.
Mm-hmm.
And then he would get impressions. And then he would say, well, now one time I had taken a little charm off of a keychain. They put it in his hand and he said, this used to be part of something bigger. And I was like, what? And then he said, and it's a key and it shines. I mean, it's just laying on his hand, right?
Yep.
Like it's literally just laying on his hand like this. And he got it like spot on. Yep. So ESP is real, folks. It really works. But if you ask him, he's going to tell you, practice. Like, how do you get to Carnegie Hall, right? Practice. So is that the same level of practice that is required to be a tarot reader? To me, like you're reading, not that there's anything less about reading the oracle or whatever, but because you have I don't know, an aid, right? The cards are an aid. Sure. And you are specifically connecting to your guides, to their guides. You have an actual question, you have a direction.
Yep.
I don't want to use the word, is it easier to read the oracle than to have ESP?
I think you can read. I think a beginning tarot reader can help someone sooner than a beginning mind reader.
Definitely. And in reality, mind readers are entertaining people, right? Which is help because joy and all that.
Right. Yep. I think here's one thing I want to just point out is that ESP just kind of like compartmentalizes something, like I can read minds, right? Whereas what we're talking about is this huge, much bigger phenomenon of intuition and connecting and knowing something that someone did or will do, right? ESP just seems to compartmentalize it into this like psychology box, whereas psychic phenomena is so much bigger and broader and has much more depth. So I do know that they're getting away from using the word ESP now, and the term that's currently being used is PSI, which just stands for psychic phenomena.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay. I can relate to
It
that.
takes it out of the clinical science box of ZENER cards and it plops it in the, or it rips it wide open and says, no, we're not talking about this tiny little thing. We're talking about this greater use of your spiritual abilities.
Well, and in reality, you know, and this is a big tell for me. I walked around in my life constantly saying, I should have went with my first instinct.
Yeah.
Why didn't I go with my first instinct? I should have gone with, I mean, like constant. I don't mean like every minute of the day, but you know, often, multiple times in a week, for things to varying degrees. You know, maybe it involved saving some money, or maybe it involved, you know, making a choice like,
Right.
should I
How to
go
use your
here? Should I
time.
go
Yep.
there? You know, whatever. But how often I said I should have gone with my first instinct, and do you know, I never say that anymore. I never hear myself say it
Because
anymore.
you do go.
I go with my first instinct because I trust now what I'm hearing.
Yeah.
Right?
It's trusting
Like
your
I
intuition.
trust those tugs, I trust those pulls.
Yep.
Well, yeah, and then there's the guy that doesn't shut up. So there's also that. But
right.
You know, and is that the same? I hear them. Specifically, I hear them.
Yes.
Could I think I'm talking to myself in my head? Sure. But they come up with things that I just am struggling with, or that I can't understand, or I can't figure out. And then I'll just, you know, I'll hear it. I'll just, you know, like, because I need to make a video for something, a short one. And I'm like, oh, I don't get it. I don't understand. So, and this works for me. I walk laps around my pool. I have a 27-foot round above ground pool that I get to use in Illinois, 3 months maybe out of the year.
If that.
But I love it so much. But I walk laps half an hour, try to do it every day. And as I do that, things start laying out for me. Like I will step off, and this is what I'm working on, and this is what I need to know. You know, let's hear it. Like, what do you give me? What you got? And son of a gun, you know. And I always think to myself, "Oh, is it going to work this time? Is it going to work this time?" And then every time, as soon as that shuts off, and I get maybe to the third lap, I start to hear, okay, well, this is what it is, and this is what you say, and this is what it should look like, and you know, and like here is the dialogue that you should use. And then when I come in and test out the dialogue, it's like a minute and 45 seconds. Like, you know, it's just
right. Perfect.
Because I have that trust. Do I have ESP according to ZENER cards? No, I do not. Do you have ESP according to ZENER cards? No, you do not. However, you've given me some of the most top-notch and intuitive readings that I've ever gotten, like card readings. You're welcome. Because you know, and I think for you, and I think this is worth, you know, just discussing a little bit. You are real left brain, right brain. Like you're a combination of the both. You know, I lean more towards the whatever, the creative side. Yep. I lean more towards the creative side. I'm good with tech, and I'm good with, you know, critical thinking. Like, I get it. Why don't you?
Yeah.
And some of that is I call it a waitress brain. I think efficiently, right?
Efficient.
Like, because I worked in restaurants for a long time, for almost 20 years. I think efficiently because you had to think efficiently,
right?
You know, to be able to do that. So I think it would be valuable for anybody to, you know, spend a summer doing it, or what, you know, like if you're in college, spend a summer or 2 summers or whatever doing it.
I did too.
It really it creates some pathways, I think, that are not available to everybody.
I think you're right.
At first, right? So I think efficiently. So, but you know, if I believed, if I mean, if I believed that I was a sponge for negative energy and there was nothing I could do about it, and if I believed the Zener cards, that there was no way I'd be able to ever do any kind of psychic work, because that's what I thought they were telling me. That
Right.
is true, like
Yeah,
much
that's what
like
I
you.
thought too. Yep.
You know, if I believed that, then we wouldn't be here. And
Right.
I just, you know, if anybody, listen, if anything resonates with you at all in this show, does it resonate with you? Let it resonate that ESP, as they present it in the media and on TV, is not what you need. If
Correct.
you have it, great. If you play with it, great. If you develop it, fantastic. If you
Yes.
practice it and you can do it, you know, and you can put a card up and you know, you can say yes or no or whatever, fantastic. But that is not what impacts you from day to day, right? Like
Right.
your intuition takes you through day to day. And it's interesting because you got a really good story about that, you know, like with your business and how you were getting the cards,
Yep.
right?
About my customer that was dishonest.
Yeah, and the how the tower card kept coming up, and
Yep.
everybody's like, "Oh, the tower," you know, like,
Something's coming.
and
Something's
me, for
coming.
me, the tower is like awesome, right? It's a
Yeah.
heads up. You're warning me about something, like awesome, because then I can zig or zag or whatever. So yeah, so I mean,
You know, I one of the things that you going back to intuition real quick, a lot of people know about the phenomenon where this is when people had phones in their houses, right before the phone rings, my mom might say, oh, I bet you that's Aunt Joanne, and she'd pick up the phone and sure enough it was Aunt Joanne. Well, no caller ID, no other,
right,
there wasn't a reason that she had planned to call, but that gut feel that you know who's calling when they call, that's intuition.
it
That's the
sure
kind of
is.
thing that if you can listen to that and hone that and work on that idea, that's going to serve you very well in your day-to-day life.
Absolutely, and you know, honestly, so this is something else that I've noticed. So a couple of things. One is that my oldest son, the one who lives nearby, um, from the time he was small, he the phone would ring and he'd go, "Oh, that's Carol," or "Oh, that's my mom," or you know, just depending on.
I
And
love
people would
that.
be like, "How does this kid knows who's on the phone?" You know, it just is what it is. But
Right.
then my older son, that's my older son. My younger son, he was connected in a little bit of a different way because he could always tell me what he did when he was big, right? Like
Oh yeah.
he came in and he was still connected. Like he still had that connection to past
To a
life,
previous life. Yeah.
you know, and so that that to me is a little bit different than this, you know, sort of precognition thing. But I'll tell you, because this is something you can practice every single day. Practice it every single day. You know, like my phone. Well, my phone is actually out of the case because I had to use it. Our power went out today, so I had to use my phone for Zoom for a client. Um, but if the phone is upside down or you have a case on the phone, before you open the phone to answer it, think, who is it?
Mm.
Right? Who
Yep.
is it? Like, just start to make that connection. When I watch, I can't even tell you, it happens all the time. When I watch competition shows, you know, like the Holiday Baking Championship
Yeah.
or whatever,
Yep.
I always know who's going to leave at the end of the day. Like,
Huh.
who's going to win and who's going to leave. I always know now. I didn't used to, but I always do now.
That's
So
cool.
now that I started to notice that, I started to work with that and hone it, right? So you can practice doing just about anything. I mean, you can take a regular deck of cards and just start with red, black, trying to catch the sensation of red and black and see if that will work for you.
I you
So,
know I did something like that. um, when I was in my back when I had my office, I'd be downtown and I'd be waiting to leave the parking garage, and there were like a bunch of people coming in, and so I would say, "Is the next driver male or female?" And I go, "I'm feeling female." Yep, female. And I got it about 90% of the time.
yeah.
It
And I
was
think that the only time you don't get it is when you get in your own way.
yep,
You know, to me, it's kind of a little bit like, It's kind of a little bit like, like when kids are babies and they're just about to learn to walk, and a lot of times, you'll go in the room to get something to drink, and you come back and the kid, you see the kid was standing up, and then you see him fall down real fast. Like, the kid's been, because the kid's moved, the kid has
Yeah.
walked.
Yep.
But it's like, but then they catch on that you see them and they fall, like,
Yeah.
I remember we have this amazing sound healer in our area. His name is Preston Click, and he's on Patreon. And it's KLIK. So if you're interested in at all in sound healing, he's got a really inexpensive Patreon, which I think would be amazing. But he's amazing. Like, he has what he calls Ocean of Devotion, and he's got these huge gongs, and he's got all these different instruments, and he's just out of this world. And I remember when I first started going, because it would put me in a state where I could connect to like Akashic information, start to see, start to get visions, right? And see things. And I always noticed, like, I would get in, I would settle in, I would start to feel the sound and, make the connection. And then I'd start to watch, and then all of a sudden my ego would wake up and be like, and then I'd lose the connection, like, so it took work to be able to get from beginning to end. And then I do remember one of the last times sorry, I don't know if you heard that or not, but that was pretty loud over here. One of the last times there was a vision that I got that I found to be a little bit disturbing. It was Akashic information, and I was like, okay, well, if you're going to show me this, I need to catch it from beginning to end, and I need to understand why I'm seeing it, or I'm going to shut it down. So I developed enough control within this setting that I could see the vision, which was disturbing. I didn't murder anyone. Well, maybe I kind of did, but it's a story for another day if we ever talk about the Akashic record again. But at the end, I was able to understand the pattern that it supported, and it was present in my current life.
Oh.
And not that I was ever planning to murder anybody in my current life. So
but
please, don't send me to the FBI. But
a way of interacting with the world that maybe needed a correction.
Exactly right. And so I was able to go, oh, wow, things would get considerably easier for me if I stopped doing that.
That's the whole point of past life regression. That is the whole point of that, is to be able to see the pattern and be able to make an adjustment in your own life.
Oh, most definitely. But so we have one day we'll talk about past life regression too. I don't think past life regression is for everyone.
You're probably right.
I think, and I'm just going to quickly say why. We're already way past shameless plugs, so we're just going to let that go today. I'm going to quickly say why and see if this resonates with you or not. I have known people who have been taken into their past lives, into a regression, that have been disturbed. I mean, if you saw what I saw without the awareness to shut it down or to understand it, you'd come out of it and you'd be very disturbed.
Yep, I can totally see that.
It would be very, very hard for you to process. For me, I went through it from beginning to end, and at the end, I understood what it was meant for, and I understood what I needed to clear and shift and change in my life.
That's really, that's a huge distinction.
Yes. So to me, that's different than the Akashic reading, which is also about reading your past lives, but it is more about reading the energy and the patterns that are present.
Right.
Now,
rather than the visuals.
Right. Rather than the visuals. Because the truth is, it doesn't mean a hill of beans if you were Veronica in the 1800s and you lived on top of a hill in a Victorian mansion in Ireland, and it doesn't matter.
Right.
What matters is what you did and what is holding on that is keeping you from aligning with whatever it is you want to do or need to do in this life, right? So is there value in past life regression? I think so, but I think that you need to be ready. I don't always believe that you need to be ready for things. Like I've had people say, "Oh, well, you really need to be ready to learn Reiki." I don't buy that. I don't believe that. I think that, especially level 1 Reiki, everybody should learn that.
Yeah.
Right? Everybody should learn that. But this is one of those things I think you need to be ready. So what about people who already get flashes and things and see things they don't understand? ESP, is it psychic awareness? I mean, I don't even want to talk about psychic attack or any of that stuff.
Nah, we're not going to go there today. So someone who's getting that information already without practicing, to me that means they have a very good chance of growing that, enhancing that, in order to build that up and well, make it better.
Right.
I know people that took mediumship classes or basically mediumship or psychic reading classes that at the beginning of the class, they just, had little snippets of awareness. And by the end of the, 2 or 3 month class, were getting really good at tapping into that intuition. So it is a matter of practice.
Right? Yeah, it's how do you get to Carnegie Hall?
Yep.
So what about, now I know how I feel about this, right? And I know what resonates with me. But I have known over the years people who have these connections, and why they have them, I think, is another conversation for another show. Like I think that everybody's an empath. Like that whole as an empath thing, everybody's an empath. To what degree?
Okay, right. How much are you able to feel? Yep.
It's human nature to need to be an empath, right? Because in the 400s or the 500s, when somebody was coming towards you, you needed to be able to tell, not without speaking, friend or foe immediately, right? Exactly. Yep. So empathy, or that being able to read the energy of others, that's a necessary piece of being human in my mind. So there's that. However, there are people. I always try to think if I can, say examples without sort of calling out a person, because I never ever want to do that, or if it's going to be relatable to anybody. But I've run across people who get visions, who see things, who are afraid.
Yep.
That, it scares them. And I believe that if your filter is filled with fear, you're going to get fearful visions. And that if you work on the fear and cleaning up your filter, work on what you believe. I don't believe for a minute a ghost can hurt me at all.
Right. Yep.
I don't believe it. Nobody will convince me. I don't believe in demons.
Yep.
Red ones with black horns and tails and whatever.
Right.
I don't believe in that. I believe there are humans that are rather demonic, but I believe that there are no troubled souls. I believe there are only troubled humans.
Yeah. Yep. You're talking about
that. So I don't have that fear in my filter, that fear of the unknown. Although, I spent probably most of the 80s and part of the 90s being scared of the end of the world because I didn't know any different. Right. Like deathly afraid. Because that's all anybody talked to in freaking 1987. Every time you turned around, somebody was telling you the world was going to end.
I remember that, and there were people lining up to welcome the alien invaders.
Yeah, right. Like, or in 2000. Oh my God, 2000. Look how many people got rich on the 2000 Y2K thing. Like, and I'm like, no.
I remember that very well. I was I was on a talk show talking about that very topic.
Oh wow. Yeah, I mean, we actually had a client who got himself kind of rich ish. It's always pseudo rich. It's never real. Um, with those survival type, you know,
Yeah, isn't that
you, you need
an
this or
industry?
that. That will never ever be a topic I will agree
Preppers?
to converse about on the show. But my point is, if you work on your filter and what you understand that you can allow through, because I also believe that if there are ghosts in your home, they have to go if you tell them to go. Now,
Yep.
if in fact they are energetic imprints, that's a different story because they never had any sentience to begin with. And energetic imprints, anybody that has a teenage boy can understand an energetic imprint, right? Like when they leave the room, that frenetic, crazy energy is still there. Now imagine you
Oh,
have, 11 of them or something, right? Like,
yep, yep.
and that's not the only example. One of the really good examples I ever saw was in the Frankenstein movie, the villagers with the pitchforks and
Yeah,
the
yep.
and the torches. Like imagine all that fear they had off gassing from those people. What did it create?
Yeah,
Right?
it's the mob mentality, and actually explaining how that works, right?
Yeah.
It's that energy. You see it all the time in, like, where a mob takes over and like trashes a downtown or something like that. And that anger and
Yeah. Yet
fear,
again, there is a very good example that we will not discuss on the show, but
indeed.
um
But the anger and fear and mob mentality, why did
yes.
you do it? I don't know. I don't know what came over me. Energy.
Yeah, and it's energy, and it's um because I believe also in the energy of the shall we say Pied Piper.
Yes. Follow me.
Um right. And I think that's where we leave that one. So if I mean I have an awareness of some of the people who are listening to the show, and we are grateful for each and every single one of you. But if it's a person who is new to this idea of ESP, loves the idea of ESP, and really wants it for themselves, where do you tell them to go?
Okay. And I'm gonna stretch that question a little bit of how do you practice your intuition. One of the things that I found from one of my favorite researchers on this, his name's Dean Radin. If you practice with a friend or someone that you are emotionally connected with, you will have much better results than a stranger. So there's research that's been done where you take like a mother and a son, or like two people that have been married a long time, and they do that picture, not the Zener cards, but the picture. Like I'm imagining a picture, like we
Hmm?
do in the mediumship classes, to do that kind of practice. When you practice with someone who is a you have a soul connection with in some way, you will have much better ability to communicate back and forth.
That makes
So
sense. I mean, it's sort of
yeah,
like,
practice with
uh,
a friend. Yes.
yeah, right. And it's sort of like taking the paper cups, with the
Yep.
string
Yeah.
and pulling it tight, right? When
Right.
you practice with a friend, like
Yep. You
it's
are
got
connecting
somewhere
with
to
someone who
go.
means something to you, and
Yeah.
you get a better bond, and that connection where you're getting your ego out of the way and you're trying to connect, you know, get your filter turned off. That connection with someone you care about and already have a loving connection with means all the difference in the world, to do that kind of practice.
That's amazing. That is amazing. And there are exercises aplenty. I didn't do any internet searches, for ESP
Yeah.
exercises,
Well,
but I'm
the
sure.
book you were reading,
Oh yeah,
um,
I'm sure it's got.
Jose Silva, has stuff in there already. That's
Oh, okay. Well, there you go. I mean, and I've seen, and I've done where, somebody holds the deck of cards and, thinks red or black, just red or black. That's
Yep.
all you got to do,
Yep.
red or black. And then the other person, and then you can, decide how many and write them down. Naturally, the more you do, you could dilute your percentage. So if you do the whole 52, right, like maybe you get, I think if you do the whole 52, if you get more than 10%, you're probably onto something. Like they usually say 20, don't they? 20%.
20, it's actually a percentage of the possibilities. So ZENER cards, it's 20 because there's 5 possibilities.
Oh, because there's 5, right?
Right.
Oh, okay.
Well, so red and black, there's 2 possibilities. Statistically, you should get half. But here's another interesting Dean Radin thing. He said that when overdoing thousands and thousands of these tests, they found that it was always like 50.05%. Why 0.05? He says, because everybody has that ability. Some more than others, but it's that little tiny bit that was like, this is why we know it works. It's just a little bit
interesting.
more. Yeah,
that is interesting.
That was life. That fact was life changing for me. That has made me go, okay, I'm in.
Okay, so
tell me more.
And what's his name again?
Dean Radin, Radin.
Okay, Dean Radin. So we're just going to show that for a minute so you can see it.
Yeah.
Dean Radin.
Yeah,
and then,
he's got a number of course, books on this topic, but he's got a website, and some YouTube videos, and he's a serious researcher in psychic phenomena, and well spoken.
Excellent. And then this is Jose Silva. Now, there was Jose Silva Sr., who created what you may have heard of as the Silva method. And he developed that mind movie method, which I've seen adaptations of in energy work classes that I've taken. Very, very powerful situation. Yeah. So, and his book is, what is it? Everyday
ESP?
I think it's Everyday. Yeah, I think it's Everyday ESP. But if you just go to Amazon and look up Jose Silva, you will find easily enough. The sort of newer version, I think there's like an updated version. Interesting. I mean, there's so much more that we could talk about here. Naturally, we're at the end, and it's closing in on tarot time too.
Yep.
But if you so you got the one nugget, must help 2 or more people, right? That was great.
That was really interesting.
That was a really great nugget. But if you, in closing, wanted to say one thing to anybody who's listening, whether it's somebody who's really experienced or somebody who's brand new, what would you say about ESP itself and the idea of, ESP, separating it from...
The clinical psychology, college age stuff is not what we're talking about.
Yeah.
I would say actually find what resonates with you and practice that, whether it's, the connection and trying to send pictures back and forth. Tarot is a great tool for enhancing your intuition, for learning. So I would say
because you could take... you could take a whole suit out. It's got numbers to connect with. It's got pictures to connect with.
Yep.
You could take out the major arcana and connect with that. It would be fun to do it with another person, but you could totally do that by yourself.
Absolutely.
You could do it with a deck of regular playing cards. By the way, just because now I like to shout out for listeners, and then we will do tarot time.
All right.
I had somebody reached out to me, and they let me know that they were doing mantras, an affirmation.
Yeah.
And like a chant, like a mala, 108 times.
Yep.
But she didn't have a set of mala beads, so she used a deck of cards with 2 jokers, and I thought that was just thrilling. So I appreciate. I believe she will listen. So I want you to know that I appreciate you, and I'm really proud of everything you're doing, and I thank you for giving me the honor of learning from me. It's a big deal.
Cool.
So, yeah. So anyway, so, you know, while it may, and we'll put it out there for the listeners, you know, while it may seem like the impact of the show is small because we don't have a lot of followers at this point, we're still working out the whole YouTube, what do you call algorithm, whatever
yes.
situation. We will figure it out. But we are making an impact. This show is important and we are loving it, and we are loving you for listening, and we are loving working with each other and talking with each other and you know, sharing with each other. So it is an honor to be a part of your day in whatever format that happens, and we thank you. I'm so grateful for all of it, right? All the way around the block. So that's my little bit for the end. Oh, and P.S. don't forget to subscribe.
Find the button, click on it.
Yep.
You've been warned.
Click the little bell so you get the, isn't that a thing on YouTube?
It's the bell.
Click the
It's two things. The subscribe button and then the bell.
Yeah. Subscribe. Get notified. Perfect. Awesome. All right. It is tarot time.
All right. So today's card is one of the major arcana cards. It is the Hanged Man. Now you can see this is
interesting.
Yes. It's actually a woman in this.
I was going to say, is that
that is a woman, yes. But the Hanged Man, or the Hanged Man card, means surrender. It means it's not all about your driving something forward and making it happen. You need to step back, surrender, and let the universe bring it to you.
Ooh.
Yeah. So surrendering to the will of the cosmos, right? Letting go, right? That's one of my favorite phrases. Just let it go. I say it to my kid all the time. So-and-so didn't like you. Let it go. Let it go. Surrender. Right. It's also kind of enlightenment. And another way to say it is go with it. Just flow with it. Get into the flow. Let it flow downstream and take you with it. Don't fight against what is naturally coming your way.
So isn't it interesting? This is another example in the tarot of a card that is misunderstood.
Absolutely.
Because when you see Hanged Man, you're like,
oh yeah, it looks
right.
Especially some of the traditional ones. You're like, what is that? Is he alive or not?
Right. I mean, really, am I going to get? You know what I mean? Am I in for it? Oh man, am I in for it? When in fact, it's. I mean, now that you say it, and I can see the connection, right? Like when you're hanging like that, let it go. You have to let it go. You don't have a choice.
Yep. You just have to surrender and let
you just don't have a choice.
Let it come to you. Let me read the mantra for this card. So this is from Chris Ann's Lightseers Tarot. The mantra is, I lean into my inner world of limitless miracles, surrendering to the divine will of the cosmos. So just let it come to you. So that's amazing. That is, for me, that's a really good card. And it's a great reminder. If you want a reading today, this is your message that whatever you're forcing or trying to push towards, step back, let the divine cosmos lead you and bring things to you.
That's brilliant. Surrender to the divine will of the cosmos. I mean, it doesn't get any better than that, does it?
Right, exactly.
And one of my favorite words, of course, because, visualize the line surrender, right? That's
actually, you could actually pick out a card for each one of those three words and kind of make that your.
I was thinking about that.
Card mantra.
I think that's pretty cool.
Yep.
I think that would work in a lot of ways for a lot of things. So we'll leave it at that.
Yeah.
Wow, and we made it. Like it's not even. We still actually have a minute left.
Cool.
That's amazing. So, okay, so the Hanged Man, I can feel like that make it. I am starting to connect to the energy as you're going through this. Oh, I will take this time. I got a notification on my screen that my John turned me on to, and I'm going to try to say it in this sort of more French way, Lenormand cards. which is an entirely, is it actually called tarot deck?
No, it's not. It's a different.
It's just
it's a
so
different.
it's a
Yeah,
different oracle
they
altogether,
actually put
like
it in
I
the
Ching
category of
and
oracle decks.
okay. So good, because I was going to say if it's called tarot, that would be using tarot like Reiki or Kleenex, right?
Yeah.
But we're very excited to sort of embark on this journey. He's got a little head start on me, but I'm excited to figure out, what this is about, because this is a very different way of reading the cards. And I will say that if you're at all interested in reading an entire deck, this is the one that you want to do it with.
Right. It's
Right?
designed to do I think a 36 card spread, and you read it like a sentence. It's very different than,
It's
it's so
and I
interesting.
think there's something about pairs too,
Pairs, yes.
correct?
Pairs or
So
triplets of cards that are read together as as part of the very detailed meaning of something.
interesting. So I'm excited to, break it out and give it a try and try to figure it out. So you'll be hearing more about that. One last thing, next week we are going to go topic free. We are going to, we're celebrating our 30th episode. So 30 episodes. We're just going to let it loose a little bit and tell you a little bit more about ourselves.
Yep. We're going to ask Spirit for what we need to talk about, and whatever we receive from that will be our topic. So we're going to be really on the line connecting with Spirit.
It'll be happening as it goes. So you never know who you'll hear from. You never know what you might see. Maybe you'll get 5 or 6 cards. Maybe you won't. Who knows? It's going to be fun. A little less directed than normal, and I think it's going to be a great episode. So join us for that. We're looking really forward to it. And drop a comment if you have something you'd like to see us talk about. We'll be happy to throw that in the hat and see if we pull it out. Anyway, thank you all so much. Once again, so grateful for the honor of bringing us, into your homes or into your earbuds or into your podcast world, whatever it is that we do. We are so grateful for you and so grateful for you as a listener.
Thank you, everyone.
And we will talk to you next week. This has been Does It Resonate With You?
Thank you for listening to Does It Resonate With You, the thought-provoking conversation show with your hosts, Angie of the ZXUH Method and John the Tarot Geek. Please help us out by clicking the subscribe button here on the YouTube channel. We appreciate your support.